Hey everyone, all right, in this video we're going to continue on with the homework series here for chapter 9 and 10, and we're going to move on to the 10.2 tab. Excuse me. And in the 10.2 tab, we're basically doing a very similar problem to 10.1. And so I've kind of copied over the table that we were working in, and it asks a lot of the same questions essentially. So we can just work directly, into that table here, and you'll have both. This will be available for you when you jump in the problem as well. I had to kind of create that, while we were preparing the last problem, but yeah, let's go ahead and fill this one out for 10.2. So here we've got on 1-1, on the first year. And so I think let's just go ahead. We'll come back to that. I think we can probably copy over a lot of the information there, but let's just fill this out to begin. So we have $3 million of bonds that were issued, and it's a 4-year term. It's 10%, and we received 3,180,000, so it was issued at 106. Okay, and the number of payments, it's semi-annual payments, so we're going to say 4 times 2, so 8 total payments. We can see that kind of matches up with our table over here. And let's see, what else do we need to know? Issued at 106. Interest rate per payment then is going to be, divide that by 2 because it's 2 payments per year again. And then and so we don't have a discount in this instance, but we have a premium, and that would be 6%. How much is it over 100? And then the premium amount or dollars, just fix that real quick. So the dollars there, let me make sure that was fixed. Oh yeah, that was funny there too. Premium dollars then is going to be our 6% times the 3 million. You can already see it. It was 180,000. That's what they told us. And then the premium amortization will be the total premium divided by the number of payments. So 8. So we're going to see 22,500 in premium amortization that goes along with each interest payment, essentially, right? Okay. So, like I mentioned, let's go back here. I'm going to copy, and you can do the same if you want. Copy in the same journal entries. Now, keep in mind we have a premium now, so this is going to be a credit, and then it's going to be a debit when we're amortizing it. So we'll want to kind of change that, and then here's a little trick too. If y'all want to learn a trick to change everywhere that says discounts, we want it to say premium. And so if we want to change those all at once, we can just highlight all the area that has that terminology we want to change. Then you can come up to this find and select and click replace. And then we can just put in discounts. It's going to find all the where it says discounts in our selection. And then we're going to replace that with premium. So there we go. And yeah, now it says premium on bonds payable, in each of the instances. So that's looking good. Okay, so let's clear our amounts out here. So it's 4 years, so the actual bond will be repaid 4 years later. So that's going to be at 5 at the beginning of the 5th year, right? Okay, I think we got basically everything we need here. So let's change our explanations here just a little bit, because 4 years at 10% at 106. Let's put it in here. Okay, so now we're gonna just fill this out. So the bond amount is the 3 million. Let me make a little more space on these. The premium we calculated was, and then, sorry, that's going to be a credit. The premium was 180,000. And then the cash that we received is just the sum of the two. So we got extra cash when we did this bond because it was issued at a premium because the interest rate offered is better than what the current market rates are for other bonds. And so that's what we're going to get there for the total. It matches up, to the amount it told us. So that's important. And then the amount of cash that we're going to pay in interest every time is going to be the percentage per payment. So 5% times the outstanding bond amount of, so 150,000. So remember 10% divided by 2 times the total outstanding bond amount. And then the premium on the bonds payable as we amortize it is the 22,500. And remember, we got that by taking the total premium divided by the number of payments. And then we basically just debits equal credits. So we want to take, it would be 150,000 each expense in cash if we didn't have the premium amortization, but we get to reduce the interest expense that we recognize because we have that premium. And so we just subtract, debits now equal 150,000 to match the credits. So we're looking good there. And then we're just going to do the same journal entry every time. We're doing straight line amortization of the premium. So again, it's the same every single time. And then when we repay the bond, I never put in my, let's see, I'll just put in this real quick. Repayment. And that's going to be the same type of entry there at the end. And when we repay the bond, we're repaying the 3 million. We don't have to repay the 180,000. It's just the 3 million that we are repaying. And yeah, here, what's the total amount of interest paid over the life of the bond? Then it's going to be, we can just look here and say in cash, we're going to make how many payments? 8. So 8 times 150,000. So we would have 1.2 million, paid in cash interest over the 8 periods. And then, you can kind of see, it could be 300,000 times 4 years over that whole period as well. So, let's see what else. Oh, and then the total amount of interest expense then will be the 1.2 million of cash interest, but we reduce the amount of the interest expense by the total premium. So it'll be 1,020,000. And you can kind of check that by, looking at this times 8, because it's going to be the same amount of interest expense every single time. The journal entries, overall 8 entries are the same. And so that is, it's good. Okay. So the cash we pay is 1.2 million, but the interest expense that we recognize is less than that. Oh, I should put premium. The interest expense is less than that because we had the premium, right? And that premium allows us to reduce the amount of interest expense that we recognize over the life of the bonds. Okay, so now we need to just fill out our table and then we'll be good to go. And so our unamortized premium at the beginning again is 180,000. And so the carrying value then of the bonds, we just add those together, the premium plus the bond face amount there. And then every time we make an amortization to get this premium, down to 0 over the 8 payments, we're going to be reducing it. I'll just do it there and then click into your formula and do F4 so that it stays on that cell. And then we can just drag that down. So you can see it goes to 0, which is what we would expect. And then the amount of the carrying value then will be the bond amount at any given point. So let's lock those cells, do the dollar signs there, plus the unamortized premium at any given point, right? So then we can say after the whole 4 years and 8 payments, the bond carrying value then will, the premium goes to 0. We've adjusted the interest expense every time we've made a payment over that whole period. And so when we get to the end of the whole thing, the carrying value then comes back down to the face value of the bonds, and you make that bond repayment basically. So hopefully that's helpful. Again, it's just a little different because we have the premium instead of the discount. So you just have to put it on a credit when you first recognize and then amortize it with debits. Whereas when we have the discount, it goes on a debit side, reducing the cash you receive. And then we amortize it by crediting the discounts on bonds payable. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Again, it's a little bit theoretical. Some of this you have to kind of really stretch your brain to understand as far as the bonds and the interest expense and the amortization. But focus on the mechanics of the journal entries and just make sure you know how to do the calculations. And once you kind of get that figured out, kind of try to understand as you're going along. But for sure, make sure you know how to do the mechanics of these kind of journal entries. And then, try to incorporate really the underlying logic and theory from an accounting perspective, accounting theory as it's going through. So, all right. Well, thanks. Wrap this one up, and then we'll just have one last video, 10.3, pretty short one. It's just our ratios problem. And so I will see you in that, and we'll wrap this thing up. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.